Good morning. How are y'all this morning? It is The Resilient Show. How exciting is this? The Resilient Show is considered an essential service. We all know that it's essential listening, but it's an essential service. So we are pushing ahead with The Resilient Show on www.arrowfm.co.nz, or if you're in the Wairarapa, 92.7 FM. Anywhere else on the globe, you can find us on the interweb. Really excited about today's show. I'm always excited about the show. I love doing this. I love getting up on a Friday morning and driving through the light traffic on a Friday morning to the radio station to do this show. It's just one of the high points of my week. I live excited, but this is one of the high points. Today's show, The Resilient Show, is entitled Hold On. And it's dedicated to New Zealand. Look, we've had it fairly light over the last 12 months as other countries have seen lockdowns and COVID spreading all over the place like wildfire. And we are into day 3 of our level 4 lockdown. Hope you are all staying in your tiniest bubbles, and let's get through this as quickly as possible. So the show is dedicated to everyone in New Zealand who is behaving themselves. I was going to start the show with the song Tiny Bubbles, but I listened to it and thought, you're not doing that. It's we're not doing that at all. You can't dance to it, and 2, it's just a little bit maybe not. It's Friday morning. We're all stuck together in our bubbles. What a great opportunity to have a boogie together. Let's have a boogie, let's have a dance. And while I am not in any way condoning lockdown parties, maybe you can have a little bit of a dance around before you get your day started. And who better to teach us how to party than S Club?
S Club.
Get down tonight, come on, yeah, get down tonight, everybody get down tonight.
Ain't no party like a lockdown party, like an S-Club party. How cool was that? Yeah, let's not do big lockdown parties, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with celebrating the end of the week with a little bit of a boogie in your tiny bubble. We've got to enjoy it. We've got to find the things to enjoy. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the first part of the show. And then we are inviting our first ever guest back on the show, Libby Robertson. And then a later guest, Dane, who came on and spoke about breathwork, where he was heading off his new venture. We're going to talk to Libby and Dane throughout the show today. I think it's the first time I've had two guests on at the same time. That could be utter carnage, or it could be quite good fun. I am quite sure it is going to be the latter, the good fun bit. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about lockdown. I know it's only been 3 days, and I know as we look across the globe, there are people who have been in lockdown for an awful lot longer. Whether we go into a longer lockdown or not is a decision that other people are going to make later on today, and I am not going to surmise on that. There's too many people out there with opinions that we listen to, and all of a sudden it turns into fact, where actually it's just bollocks. So, it's important to share opinions, but it's also important that we do our own research. But the 4 E's that will help us get through lockdown with ease. See what I did there? 4 E's, 4 E's. Right, what can we do? Well, we could just turn on the TV and just eat. We could, remember last time, we were either going to be hunks, drunks or monks. Moderation, people. Moderation in everything. What can we do? Well, we could actually educate ourselves a little bit. We've got time on our hands. We've got time to do the things that we never thought we'd have time to do. Now, that may well be a list. It certainly is in the Darling household. The Lady Elizabeth has a list of things that I'm now being expected to do because I've got a little bit more time on my hands. I keep saying to her, Lizzie, I work from home all of the time. Lockdown doesn't actually make a difference to my activity. Seemingly, it does. Seemingly, I have a list of things to do. But in those small spaces, why don't we go out and educate ourselves just a little bit more? Pick up a book. Pick up that book that you haven't read for a while. Get onto the interweb and do a short course. Use the opportunity to grow a little bit. Maybe it's some stuff in your business that you haven't had the chance to do that you think, I've got that little bit extra time, and it may only be a little bit extra time because you're not travelling. Use it wisely. I handed on to the Lady Elizabeth yesterday a weekly planner so that she can begin to get in amongst planning her day properly. Sometimes when we look at our day, we think, oh, it is so long until the end of the day. It's so long until 7 sharp starts. Looking forward to seeing Hillary's tiara this evening. Yeah, it is quite long, but maybe if you break it down, I do 50-minute hours. Might sound a bit odd, but that means I've got 10 minutes to kick back, 10 minutes to take on some water, 10 minutes to do some breathing and some exercise, but then I've got 50 minutes to fill, and then I just fill each of the 50 minutes. What are you going to do to fill your day? Pick something, pick a book that maybe challenges you. Find something on the internet. Find something on one of the online TV apps, Netflix, Neon, other ones are available. Have a look on there. Have a look on National Geographic. Find something that interests you and sit down and learn so that you come out of this one better than you went into this lockdown. That's the first one. Educate. Second up, explore. Go for an explore. Now, I get it. We're not meant to be going outside. We're exercising in our local area. And too often we think, local area. I dare you, go outside and look for something different. Even if it is the same walk that you do every day. My mum's done the same walk since lockdown started in the UK back in March last year. She goes out every day and walks 4 miles. Go and explore. Go and explore. Look for something you haven't seen before. I did it this morning before I left the house to come to the radio station. I went outside and I looked up into the heavens. Beautiful, clear morning. I could see the constellations of Orion and Taurus up in the sky above me. I could see Sirius, the dog star. I could see the Pleiades, or Matariki as they're called in New Zealand. What was I looking for? What was going to change in the massive expanse of the sky? I don't know, but I looked up, I explored, and I was honoured to see 3 shooting stars within the few minutes that I was out there. Go and explore. Even if you are in your house, in your home, go and have an explore. Go and open a cupboard that you haven't opened for a little while. That'll probably give you something to do for the rest of the day. Go and have a little explore around about your house. Have a look into those cupboards that you haven't looked in for a while. Have a look through some cookbooks. Maybe do some cooking you haven't done before. Explore. Make this exciting. Get in there. Get out there. Explore. Maybe even meditate. Go and explore the inside. Oh, there's one. We had a long conversation about meditation yesterday during the Rediscovering Resilience coaching call and the importance of meditating. Go inside, calm the voices in your head. We've all got them, don't worry, it's quite normal. Calm the voices in your head. Go inside, go for a meditate, go and explore. So that's the second E of the 4 E's. The next one, exercise. Now, this doesn't have to be running around like a lunatic for 24 hours at a time. It doesn't. But get up. It's too easy. I remember during the last lockdown, I was busy throughout, but the thing that really took a kick was the number of steps I was doing each day, because I was walking from the bedroom to the kitchen to the bathroom to the office. That was it. So I started an exercise program. Do some exercise, even if it's just going for a walk, jogging on the spot, doing a push-up and a sit-up for every hour of the day. So we start at 7 o'clock in the morning and you do 7 push-ups, 7 sit-ups. At 8 o'clock you do 8 sit-ups, 8 push-ups. You get the idea. By the time you get to 1800 hours, yeah, we're using the 24-hour clock here. By the time you get to 1800 hours, you'll be doing 18 push-ups, 18 sit-ups. You'll have exercised through the day. There you go. You can have that one for free. What a great way to bring a little bit of exercise into our lives. And then last up, the last one, and this is so important, especially if we have kids, if we have teenagers at home, and I've been involved in a few of those conversations over the last few days. But even if it's with your significant other, you're used to spending time apart, and all of a sudden we're being thrown together again in sometimes quite small spaces. Remember empathy. The 4th E, the most important, is empathy. Remember that we are all going through this, but we're all going through it differently. We all have our own views on it. We all have our own experiences of it. So we must consider one another. Be empathetic towards one another. Hopefully this one isn't going to last too long, but however long it does last, ask the question, I wonder why. And I know I go on about I wonder why all of the time, but it works. I wonder why. I wonder why they're feeling like that. I wonder why I'm feeling like this. Go inside, have a little explore. But empathy is the thing that's going to get us through all of this. Being empathetic towards one and other. Yeah, if the kids kick off, if the teenagers get all stroppy, let them. Because trying to intervene at that point ain't going to work. It's just going to exacerbate things. They are in their reptilian brain. If you've got a copy of Lead Through Life, page 113, their reptilian brain is there for 4 things. Fight, flight, fright. The 4 Fs. Four things. 4 Fs. Fight, flight, fright, and procreate. Let's hope they're not doing the last one, but the other 3 is fair game activity when we're in lockdown. Don't try and talk them down of it. Maybe give them a hug. Maybe let them just get some space, and they can blow off a little bit of steam, and they'll come back. They'll be in that second phase where they are in the mammalian brain, and you'll be able to have conversations with them. You'll be able to tell them stories, and that will allow you to have the conversation about how we get through it. Have those conversations before the stress starts. That's being empathetic to one and other. Really, let's just love one another throughout whatever's coming. That's one of the most important things we can do in this life. Love. I love to love. Sounds like a track. Sounds like a song. Tina Charles, I love to love. Shouldn't we all love to love? One of the things that I'm working on at the moment is, when I say I love you, that's really, really important. And saying I love you, but I love to love you, because that causes an action. Now, we are having a small challenge getting hold of Libby and Dane at the moment, but that's all right. They will be joining us in a few seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to chuck the show around just a little bit to show the flexibility we have here, and we're going to do the book review first. And the book review today, if you are all watching the telly, Kabul Catastrophe. Now, I know what you're thinking. You are thinking, right, we're going to stop now because Libby has just joined us. Libby and Dane have just joined us. We'll come back to Kabul Catastrophe later on in the show. Now, this is exciting because we've never done a live link before. I'm just watching Libby getting her comms sorted out. She's still on mute at the moment, and there she is. The comms are right. Okay, so we're actually going to do a live cross. There we go. I can hear her now. We're actually going to do a live cross to say good morning to Libby and Dane.
Morning.
Awesome. Look at this. We did it. We did it. We did everything live and stuff. How are you both?
We are well. We figured out the tech, and how amazing is this?
We're just trying to sort everything out on our side, and bang, we're into the thick of it.
That's cool. Well, I'm very, very well. Thank you so much for asking. I am so chuffed that I was allowed to get out of the house to come and record this show today. It's really cool. How are you guys coping with the lockdown?
It's our first lockdown in New Zealand, and it's the day that it was announced, it was in the morning. It was really interesting. I said, "Do you know this would actually be a really nice house, a really nice place here in New Zealand? It's a lot of sun in our house to have a lockdown." And then what do you know?
It's your fault.
It's my fault. Blame me.
Yeah, I know. I had a gig on Thursday. I was meant to have a gig in Wellington, and I phoned them and said, "Look, guys, yeah, I can't really make it. Can we delay it by a week?" So yeah, it's now my fault for that thing that didn't happen. How are you spending your time?
We pretty much do the same thing. So we were talking about it the other day, and we were like, nothing actually changes for us.
Apart from yoga in the gym.
Apart from yoga in the gym, and rugby got cancelled last night, and a couple of classes,
and a few catch-ups in person. But
apart from that, we do everything from home anyway. So it's pretty much just business as usual.
I think, I had to explain that to the lady Elizabeth the other day when she was, it's lockdown, you've got all of this stuff that you can be on with. I'm giving it, Lizzie, we work from home. We work from home. Nothing's changing. We had an absolutely bonkers busy day yesterday with with calls and with clients. And she's going, no, nothing does change. No, it doesn't. Guess what? That list of things that you've asked me to do can wait a little bit longer. So you say this is your first lockdown in New Zealand because you were in Bali during the lockdown from last year. How's the transition been from that paradise of Bali to the paradise of Bay of Plenty?
Oh, it is
seamless.
Yeah, seamless. Yeah, it's amazing. It is so good, and I think everyone can understand. Like when you leave New Zealand, or when you leave, I guess home. For you, Stu, it must be a very, very, very interesting. Anyway. Whenever you leave somewhere, you just have this whole new appreciation for it. So for me coming back, I had a lot of resistance to coming back. Like, I was living my dream life in Bali. It was all amazing. And we kind of just knew that it was time to come back. But it is just so, so incredible to be back here with the Kiwi mindset, the ease of the Western world. Like when you're away from the Western world, you forget how easy things are here, and just New Zealanders, Kiwis. Like I forgot how amazing we are, really. It's but yeah, no, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lot different experiencing a lockdown here, but even just being here is so much. There's a lot less confusion. So when we were living in Bali, because English is very, I don't want to say rarely spoken, but it's not spoken very well.
Yep.
You're kind of in this perpetual state of confusion about anything. And so when we went into lockdown over there, their version of lockdown was pretty much shutting everything. You couldn't leave your house for a period of a few days, and then they slowly and gradually just started to open things up. But they wouldn't tell everyone how it operated. You'd kind of just have to figure it out, and then try and translate what was on, the government's Instagram pages, and then corroborate with other people that you knew to kind of figure out what half the story was. And so, there was always this state of confusion over here. And the thing that we love about being here is that, we have access to everything that we could want easily. We're living in a day and age now where we can have our groceries delivered, we can have our meals delivered to us. We can have all of the comforts that we need, in our house.
Turn on the tap. Drink water out of the tap.
Certain things like that. So living in this I don't want to say it's easier, it's just different. And the transition between Bali to the Bay of Plenty has been, like I mentioned before, seamless, because this place is incredible. We love it up here. We don't think we'll ever move from here.
There you go. There's the challenge. You've said it now. I did a podcast, recorded a podcast that goes out on Monday about You're Just Bored, and it's to do with the fact that we can just go and turn the water on, and we can have the food we want, and sometimes we forget what a luxury that is to have all of these things on our fingertips. Just to be able to, for us to be able to, the three of us to be able to have a conversation today today, although we're a couple of miles apart. That luxury, it can breed boredom, and it can breed that sort of, well, yeah, I've got a right to this. How do we stop that happening? Cool, got you there.
Yeah, I think that it's a constant recalibration to wanting to challenge yourself and to wanting to develop yourself. It's interesting you come up with that situation because, not only last week I was talking to Libby about a very similar thing that I was experiencing. We've got everything that we want, and now it's like, okay, well, what am I missing now? How am I not feeling fulfilled? Because now it's a case of, sure, we have everything that we could want and we have all the entertainment available to us, but the ability, just because we can turn on Netflix and stream every single season of Peaky Blinders or Desperate Housewives or anything, doesn't mean that we're still going to we're going to fill that void within us, which wants us to conquer, which wants us to evolve, which wants us to develop. And I think every person has this innate desire to want to do something with their lives. They have that. It's either been clouded by societal conditioning, or it's been clouded by their upbringing, or it's been clouded by that voice inside their head. But when you speak to someone and you tap into their passion briefly, you get to see it. You get to see what it is that they really want. And so this whole process is about kind of stripping away everything and then figuring out whatever it is that you really want to do with your life. So how do you cure boredom? Figure out what the heck you want to do. I think that's a good start.
Yeah, totally. That's the difference between, I asked the question a few months ago. We have our needs, as human beings, as mammals, we have needs. But we live in a world of want. And I asked the question about what want was and what sort of world we lived in. And I think there's a level beyond that world of want, and that's expectation. And we've got to unpack the expectation to get back to that world of want. And that then allows us to go inside and say, well, actually, what do I really want? Because the Netflix, the fast food, whatever it is that we find in our outside actually is a reflection of what we're seeking on our inside. And too many of us don't take time to do that. Libby, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love this so much because it's like, as a species, but if we look at the individual level, so many of us are used to struggling. Like, so many of us are used to having some form of struggle in our lives. And when we talk, like when we come to a place of boredom, that kind of suggests that we no longer have struggle. And if we look at our, so many of us, addicted, it's like we're addicted to some sort of drama or struggle. And so when we remove any struggle and we realize that all of our needs are met, and it is up to us to now figure out what it is that we desire in order to thrive. Like, we have so many options, like, both of you just said, we have so many options available to us, but what is it that we actually want? What is it that we can, reflect back on our 100th birthday party and we look back at our lives and we're like, damn, like, what a ride that was, and when we can find what our values are, when we can find what is important to us, and when we can truly discover how incredible we are as humans, we discover what we are truly capable of, not based on what our neighbors are doing or what anyone else around us is doing, but what we truly desire, what we truly want. And from there, the friction that usually comes, if we're bored, we go out and do something stupid often, anyway, that was my experience in the past, right? And so, and when we can continue to thrive with and create our own our own friction, it's nature, right? That's where change occurs. That's where growth occurs, is when there is some sort of a contrast. But we can use it for positive change. We can use it for actually creating a life of love, of abundance. And we can do this not just for ourselves, but for the collective, for our businesses, for our families, for our communities, and, let that be the ripple effect. So,
and I think sometimes the fear that people have is that in order to get there, we need to create space. And that space is sometimes silence. That space is sometimes going out and just being away from one another and letting whatever that want, that need is, let it manifest. And too often the fear is, well, I might not like what I find, so I'll just have another glass of wine, or I'll just have another bar of chocolate, or I'll just binge watch Game of Thrones to add another one into the mix. And it's too, especially when we go into something like a lockdown, it's too easy to start a bad habit that then stays with you throughout that time.
Exactly. I was really fortunate. Like when I started, my journey of, talking about resilience and self-discovery and, everything that led me to what I'm now doing. The first week, so I had a massive drinking problem, ended up in hospital, and just give you a bit of context. And that first week when I was out of hospital, I had concussion. So I was sitting there. I had to be alone in a dark room, alone with my mind.
Ouch.
And the space, it was like I was forced into having to find the space. And that was where I feel really blessed that that was how it turned out, because I had to face what was inside. And right, so many of us are avoiding what's going to happen, what's actually inside me, what's going to happen if I'm alone with myself, what's going to happen if I just sit in silence for an hour, or half an hour. And so rather than focusing on doing things, right, filling the time that we all of a sudden find ourselves with, what would happen and what would it look like if we just sat not doing anything, not with the intention to do anything or to be busy, but just to be.
I think, and spending that time, I felt really great that when I went away and did my walk in the rain last month, I didn't see another human being for 3 days. All of that time was in my head, and boy, did I meet some interesting people during that time. And then, I spoke to friends of ours, Spencer, on the show last week, and he did 3 months in his own head.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So it's
the situations you'd encounter, and there must be mind blowing.
Yeah, but when you found yourself alone with your mind, what did you learn?
There we go. You've flipped it on me. Great. I love being interviewed. Thanks, Libby. It feels like a coaching session. What did I learn? I learnt a new calmness. Just to put that walk into context, I was soaking wet through for 5 days. I didn't even bother taking my waterproof jacket out of my rucksack because that would have just been something else wet. I just went back to my olden days of, you're in the jungle, that means you're in wet kit all day and you've got dry kit to sleep in. That takes you to a deeper place in itself, because there's a resilience in just getting comfortable with that, that discomfort. But look, I'll share this, and I have only shared this with probably 2 other people, and I'll try and do it without my chin wobbling. My father died suddenly when I was 10 years old. I met him on the walk.
Wow.
I was walking down the path in the pissing rain. It was biblical, this rain. It was just straight down, and I looked to my left, and there was my dad walking with me, and we had a long tears and snot conversation. It was my tears and my snot. Tears and snot conversation, and we got to a beautiful place. I told him that I loved him, and we had a conversation about everything that had gone on. And then I sort of tripped, and when I regained my footing, because I was wearing a 25-kilo rucksack as well through all of this, I looked left, and he was no longer there, and that was all right. So there were many other experiences during my 3 days, but that was probably the reason for the walk.
Wow, it is amazing.
That's powerful.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. That's I think it's important that we share these things, and I haven't not shared it for any other reason than I just haven't shared it yet. It's important that too many of us are frightened about going inside, what happens if I do go to a quiet place? Well, if you go into it open with love and belief that it's positive, only beautiful things can happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we're living in that world where so many people are just incredibly afraid to go that deep, or incredibly afraid to be that quiet, because they're afraid of what will come out, and a lot of people who haven't done a lot of the inner work when it comes to this sort of stuff, they would encounter that and be scared and be put off, which is half the reason they don't start it, is because all of a sudden all of that emotion and what we're told to suppress comes out. And so being able to take the time for yourself in your mind, and that's what lockdown brings out. Interestingly enough, is that it just brings that quietness and that calmness, but a lot of people are they're uncomfortable with that calm, that quiet.
And it can be so calm. Right, well, when we're going to play a piece of music now, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask you, and Lizzie's got a question for you as well. She said, ask that question. I went, okay, I'll ask that question. But when we come back, because this will give you both of you a couple of minutes to think about the answer. When we come back, I'm going to ask you the question, how do we start to go inside? But before we do that, you both provided me a piece of music. Who wants to go first?
Libby.
Okay. Right, Libby. Yeah, why did you choose The Gambler? I thought it was absolutely... When it came in, I laughed out loud. Absolutely epic. Why did you choose The Gambler?
Well, it's true. It's one of my favourite songs. It was my granddad's favourite song, and
Brilliant.
So it always reminds me of him. And similar to you sharing your experience with meeting your father, my grandfather passed away when I was 16, but he has been with me so many times on my journey, and I just thought, let's have a party on Friday morning. It's such a beautiful way to let go. But every time I hear this song, whether it's played at parties or in having a lot of fun, it always just reminds me of the guidance that we always have available to us, not necessarily, here in the physical world. So.
Totally. And I think the beginning of it is so, on a warm summer evening, it introduces the song with a warm blanket for us all to enjoy. Well, here it is. Kenny Rogers and The Gambler.
On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice. So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away, knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he'd finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out his cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done.
The Gambler, Kenny Rogers. I urge you all to listen to that again, because yet, oddly enough, it's not a song about gambling. It's so much deeper than that. You don't count your money when you're at the table. Just think about life. If you spend your whole life just thinking about what's going on in your life, how are you going to have the opportunity to grow? How are you going to actually live your life? How are you going to have the joy and wonder and honour of life on this planet if you spend your whole time just counting what's going on? And with that, I'm going to welcome back Libby and Dane with the question. Right, guys, welcome back. How do we start to go inside? Who wants to go first?
I can, yeah, I'll go first. This is something I'm super passionate about.
Cool.
And it's such a good question as well. And as we were sort of sharing stories before, I had this flashback to when I first started, this path that I'm now on. And I was lying in bed one night, and I couldn't sleep. And all that was going on in my mind, right? And I'm sure so many people can relate to this, was I could feel, like I wasn't thinking, but I could feel all of these memories that I had spent my entire life trying to avoid wanting to surface. And I was laying in bed, and it was like, no mind. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to think about this. Like, push it back down. And I heard this sort of download just come into my mind. And it was the only way to heal is to feel.
No, I like that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so here I was trying to avoid everything. And I just let it out. I let all of the feelings out. And I had been someone before that, if ever I had an emotion, whether it be excitement, whether it be anxiety, whether it be stress, whether it be fear, whether it be a celebration, I would either drink it or I would eat it or smoke it. Right? It was like no feeling. No, I didn't know how to feel. And so when it comes to going within, the first thing is allowing ourselves to be as we are, right? Not needing to suppress anything, not needing to avoid anything, just allowing ourselves to be, allowing ourselves to feel. And we're taught from such a young age to not feel. Don't cry, be strong.
Yep.
It's okay. You're all right. You're all right. Don't cry. And so one of the first things and what I believe is to really become conscious and aware of how are you actually feeling? What's actually going on? And it's with that awareness when we can look straight in the face, look straight in the eyes of the very things that we're feeling, not needing to mask it, not needing to pretend, just allowing it to be. And then from there, and again, I hope this is going to help anyone who's like experienced any sort of anxiety, any sort of depression, right? This was my life for a very long time. By learning how to cope with the feelings and learning how to actually feel, it was too much to sit in meditation. Like now, when I tell people to meditate, it's from a place of you're actually able to be in your own mind, right? It's very, very difficult to just go and meditate if you're so afraid of what you're going to discover. So for me, the two biggest things that I did and that I would always suggest if you're at that stage where it's so challenging to be alone with your own mind would be to have that awareness, to journal, just by writing, just writing out all of the things. If you don't want anyone to read it, burn it afterwards or rip it up. And if you're really afraid of what's coming out, and get out into nature as much as possible. Just get outside, go for a walk, and just allow yourself to be. Not on your phone. In fact, if you can leave your phone at home, then that would be amazing.
Yep.
But just get out into nature, and what happens is, there's so much magic in that.
I mean, you mentioned fear, and Liz and I were talking about fear yesterday. There are only two ways out of fear. It's either you seek knowledge or you have faith. And certainly when you're going deep within, you got to have faith that you'll find the answers, and the knowledge is there. You just got to take the time and lean into it, because if you lean into it, you'll find your way through it rather than stepping away from it, and it will always be that barrier. Dane, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Libby, she gave pretty much everything that I would say. We talk about this quite a lot anyway, so we echo very similar sentiments when it comes to this. I'd say, to add on to what both you and Libby have said, the two greatest things for me are, number one, to be brave and to be courageous. I think one of the hardest things is when we encounter those fearful situations or those thoughts, those darker thoughts, that prevent us from growing and prevent us from going in. It sends us back a bit. And we go, no, I don't want to do that. But just be brave. Be brave enough to encounter them. Be brave enough to stand up to them. Be brave enough to stand with them. Be brave enough to stand in that silence. Be brave enough to go deep. And the only way forward is in. And by doing that, by allowing yourself to be brave and to take those gradual steps forward, you'll uncover so many incredible things. So for me, be brave, be courageous.
I think
second thing.
Yeah, go on.
The second thing is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because it is incredibly uncomfortable. It's not a comfortable experience to be breaking down and crying and feeling all these things of hopelessness or unworthiness or these feelings that you've suppressed for so long. It's not a comfortable thing. And just like you mentioned with going out for 3 days and being drenched in the torrential vertical rain, that's not very comfortable. And going 3 months without any human contact, that's also not comfortable. But that's where you learn to be comfortable with all of that uncomfortability, and that's where the greatest shifts come from. Yeah. So for me, adding on to what both you and Libby have said, be brave, be courageous, and get uncomfortable. Be okay with uncomfortability.
Your work does that as well, breath work. Breathwork
goes
go deep
too.
into that. It's not avoiding.
Totally. And I want to come back. I'm going to come back to breath work in a second. I just want to pick up on two things that you said. Gradual. This can be gradual. I talk about the zone of the unknown rather than stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping into the zone of the unknown. But it doesn't have to be a massive leap. And often it isn't. We are kind to ourselves, so it is a gradual process. I could only go into the wilderness for 5 days because actually I've done that sort of stuff before. It was almost a going back to what I was comfortable with. Maybe not some of the experiences in it, but it's a gradual thing. And if it gets a little bit too much, you can always step a little bit back from it to where it's comfortable. And you've gone there, and it means that next time you'll have the braverism to go a little bit further.
Yeah, exactly. And it's any step forward, any amount of distance in the forward direction is still a step forward, right? That's why ladders are very small steps as opposed to massive bounding leaps, because you're supposed to just take little steps at a time. So,
and the paradox of all that is when you make those tiny steps, and they are the tiniest of tiny steps, all of a sudden a massive leap occurs. And you just got to go on.
Yeah. I used to have written on my calendar if I'd get caught up thinking about life, and I'd get caught up thinking about next week, and I'd get caught up thinking about a few days ahead of time. And I had written on my calendar next to my mirror where I'd look at every single morning when I was getting ready for the day, one day at a time.
ODAT.
Yeah, and I think I even abbreviated it. Yeah, ODAT. One day at a time. Come back to now. Just come back to now. Just focus on today.
Yeah. completely. That's all we got to do. Right. So when we last spoke on the show, Dane, you were getting started with, well, not getting started, but you were doing breathwork workshops, and we did a session. Thank you very much for that. It was surreal. I spoke about it in terms of it almost felt like an illicit high. Not that I've ever had one, but the end of that breathwork. How is all of that going, and what are you discovering as you lean into breathwork?
Yeah, it's going really good up here. So at the moment, we do classes in person up here. Both myself and Libby, we both hold the space for individuals up here. We've also done a breathwork facilitator training online as well. So the breathwork side of things it's a huge tool for people to go deeper. And the beauty of it, as you've experienced, is you only need two things. One is you, and the other thing is for you to breathe. And you pretty much do.
Pretty fundamental. Yep.
Pretty fundamental, as fundamental as it can get. But it's going. Yeah, we've enjoyed this journey so far. It continues to bring about a lot of things. We utilize it more as a tool. Myself and Libby, whenever there's emotion or there's energy or something which is kind of stagnant, then we choose to lean into it with our breath, and we go deep with it, and then what does that uncover? So for us now, it's at that stage. For every single person, it brings about different things. If you're at the beginning stages of your journey, then you may have some incredibly profound reality shaking experiences. We've had people that have come out of them just questioning reality. We've had people that have come out of them and been like, what the heck was that? Like, whoa, they just had some, met past loved ones. They've met, all sorts of different things. So it really is a tool and a technique to help people go deep within themselves. And yeah, we love it. I could sit here and talk, just continue talking about it. But
keep going.
That would take all day.
Okay, fair enough then.
I was going to say, it's fascinating though when you begin to have these tools, like it's meditation, journaling, movement, exercise. Like exercise is such a powerful tool to boost our mood. But then things like breath work, I was saying in our most recent class that we had here in the Bay Plenty, I was saying to everyone, like, if I go too long without doing breath work, I'll find myself it's like my body is just, I'll find myself just starting to breathe really deeply. And Dane's like, are you all right? I'm just breathing.
Just breathing.
I'm just breathing. It's all good. But yeah, it's such a powerful reminder. Like we have all of the tools literally inside of us, our breath, we have everything that we need. And when we can utilize, and it sounds so simple. And if you've never heard of breath work, it sounds really crazy. When I first heard about it, I'm like, what? Breathing? Like, surely it can't be that, that amazing.
But I don't know if you guys are experiencing it right now. When you talk about breathing, you become conscious of your breath.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, exactly.
And two, we just go through life, and sometimes, and I spoke earlier on the show about my 50-minute hours. When I work, I do 50-minute hours, and that means that I've got 10 minutes to take on some water, to do some breathing, to move my body, and it doesn't interrupt the day. But we spend our lives and we breathe very, very. Is shallowly a word? I always I'll share a military story with you. When you do your military fitness test, it's basically running as fast as you can for 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers. And that's your basic level of fitness. But what happens when you exercise at that level is you begin to activate the lower part of your lungs rather than the top 10 to 20%, which is what most of us use all of the time. We never access the lower levels of our lungs. And that's what causes you to throw up during exercise. So, that was really, without being totally unconscious to it, my first realization of the importance of using all of my lungs was when some horrible physical training instructor was screaming at me to run faster. I have to say, working with Dane was so much more enjoyable than that. But I
hope so.
Well, I was lying down for a start. But we only use, generally, we only use that top bit of our lungs. And just to start having those conversations of just, hey guys, just breathe. Wow, yeah, it makes such a difference, and as you say, even just that, you're recognizing that you've stopped using all of the faculties you've got, brings you back to a point of starting again.
Yeah, and the beauty with breath is, it can be used for so many different things. One of the things that we say about the breath is that it can be used to cool the soup but heat the window pane. With the intention behind it, that you can really, you can use it for a lot of different purposes. And, breath work is such a broad term. There are various different ways of it. For example, pranayama through the yogic traditions, Wim Hof, and what I specialize in is holotropic breath work. All three of those are very different practices for three very different reasons. And that's the beauty of breath work, is that you can have one thing do one thing and then another thing do another thing. And that's just one tool, which is just your breath.
And 70% of toxins are released through our breath. So when we can work with our breath and release, and whether it is like emotions, whether it's physical toxins, like there's so much power when we can be conscious of it, not to mention like how relaxed we can become. When we're relaxed, we can think a lot clearer and we can create solutions to whatever obstacles we're facing. Like when it comes to, attracting more of the things that we want in our lives, and we're in a state of relaxation, we're more open to, to attracting these sorts of things. So it's like we've been so closed off, in our Western world, been so closed off from these natural healing tools and natural practices that, have been used for years and years, and the ancients were, so tapped into these sort of tools.
I do sometimes find it fascinating that that sometimes what we're talking about is referred to as New Age, but it's actually quite old. It's almost just a way of discounting it, isn't it?
It's actually really old.
Totally. So breath work is only one part of what's been going on with you guys. Libby, where's your part of the business going? Where's the growth happened for you most recently?
Oh my gosh. Wow. So we currently have, between us, we run, there's a couple, we're setting up a lot of things. We currently have 2 active brands. We've got my coaching company, which is Libby Robertson Global. And then we've got the School of Spiritual Healing Arts, which Dane and I founded together earlier this year. And we've just brought on board 2 coaches, which is very exciting. So we've now got a coach for each company to support us and support our students and clients, which is very exciting. And then I've also got my book, which is so exciting.
When's it coming out?
That is coming out in September. I'm going to be announcing the launch date within the next week. That's I feel like there's been so much going on, but that's the main things.
Cool. Well, I would love to get you back on the show when the book's launched. I'd love to be a part of that, and get you back on the show so we can talk specifically about the book, and and let people know about it if you're up for that.
I would love to. Yeah, it would be so beautiful to come back on. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. So here's the question that I was set, because when I put the show together, I often say to Lizzie, the Lady Elizabeth, what any questions that you'd ask whoever the guest is. And her question yesterday. So for those of you who are not aware, Lizzie has just stopped being a practicing midwife and is now a qualified health and wellness coach. And she and I are now working together. We're doing our first Rediscovering Resilience, is the first course that we've worked on together. And we are, we're shaking out. We're finding our ways of working together, how we work together. So my question to both of you is, how do you work together? And the second part to it is, what happens when it goes wrong?
Good question.
It's a really good question.
We've it's interesting because we're very different personalities, but we have very similar, I would say similar skill sets. There are a lot of things which we're very different on. And for a lot of the way that we have worked over the last good couple of years, together for the last couple of years, has been about really identifying, kind of what we're good or better at than the other person, and kind of sticking to that. For example, and we kind of got this very clear in the beginning, that, we wanted that Libby was going to be kind of the face. She is the coach, and that was one of the things that we identified early on, was that, Libby is an incredible talent. She's incredible at what she does. She helps people incredibly with, and you're a testament to that of, I guess, and I'm very biased in this. Libby is incredible.
Yeah, reckon. Yeah.
The way that she's able to interact with people and to coach people through and to guide people, but also to bring about all sorts of different results. That's Libby. And so, we noticed, and I noticed from a very early time, that, okay, cool, well, that needs to be the focus. That needs to be what Libby does. And, there were times in the beginning, at the very beginning, where I was trying to at least, inhibit that, or I was trying to impart my own way into the way that she operated. And I realized that wasn't best for either party.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, cool, well, that's you. You do the best things that you are good at doing, which is, showing up for people, with people, allow them to create, their ness, their being, and then I'll be behind the scenes and kind of create more of the structure, so to speak. And so that was kind of the partnership that we fostered from the beginning, and it really has just developed, since then. Since then, we've identified, okay, cool. Well, what else is it that we want to do that possibly neither of us are good at? Okay, well, we'll hire someone for that aspect.
Yeah, totally.
And also, what are the other parts which neither of us are very good at? Okay, well, how do we evolve, or how do we grow into that area? So it really was about understanding what our strengths and what our weaknesses were, and then figuring out, if one of my strengths is one of her weaknesses, and vice versa, and then figuring out, what both of our weaknesses were, and then getting someone else to do that. That was I mean, you may have a different take on it.
Yeah, I think from the beginning, it's so we work together, we run businesses together, we live together, we're married. Our lives are so. I'm sure you and Liz can relate to this so much as well. But it's we have. I think in the beginning, I remember I am so I'm so focused on my mission. I'm so focused on where I'm going. I'm very clear with everything that I'm creating, and it's very easy for me to just be all in that all of the time. And so what worked, and I remember when we used to butt heads a lot in the beginning because there was no clear boundaries. I'd be, for example, making breakfast, and then all of a sudden we'd be discussing business. And it's just, so what we have now is we have set rooms in the house. In the moment we're in, the office, and so we have set rooms, but we also just kind of have, I think we've had conversations about it where it's in our personal time, we just kind of hard, but we see an intention to not be too focused on work. If we can mention things here and there because it's our life's work. For me, it's my life's purpose and my mission, and so it's very hard not to speak about it. But we're very intentional with, if we are having these conversations outside of work time, then it's more visionary rather than sort of behind the scenes stuff. So just massive communication. And the other thing is taking responsibility for ourselves. We cannot change each other. We cannot change our partner, or if we can take responsibility for ourselves and not try to tell the other person what to do, because we're both A-type people. If we get into this, you should do this and you should do that, that doesn't work.
And just backing up on that point, there was there were points at the very beginning where I had this set belief as to how it should look when you work in this sort of realm. I came to it, and I remember saying to Libby, you got to be working 8 hours a day. Just block out 8 hours of your day, 12 hours, 8 hours, whatever. Just block that out. That time, 9 to 5. All you have to do is just block that out. And what I realized was that that wasn't two things. Number one, that wasn't the way that Libby operated best, and that took me a while to understand. But secondly, I also had to release my control of certain situations. I had to understand who she was and the way that she operated, and then to release all forms of my control over it. Because, when you have someone who is as good at doing as what they do, you don't try and bottle it up. You let it free. You let it create. You make it boundless, and you allow the space to be able to do that.
Cracking.
And so that was something which was for me was a big lesson in the beginning, and it took a bit of time to kind of overcome. But
yeah, we got a very different working style. I'm very rhythmic and cyclical, and will work when I feel inspired, which is a lot of the time. But I'm also I'm very good at resting when I need to and taking time off when I need to, and that's how I continue to grow and expand. And that took a long time for Dane to understand, but also I had to get used to his way of working as well. He's very we just work very, very differently, and so we make it work though. We have a lot of fun,
and we still learn about each other too.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Sounds like the perfect recipe for a marriage as well.
Yeah, well,
we think so.
Seems to be going right.
Yeah, we like it.
I think I remember a conversation you and I had, Libby, a little while ago about you leading this life of working from home and the freedom of doing what we do, and getting to that point of freedom, whether that's financial freedom or just how we work or how we live. And I was trying to structure it too much, and I still do because that's the way my brain works. And you said to me, well, Stu, you're not actually seeking a life of freedom. What does that mean? And it's one that I still reflect on, that, well, yes, there's work to be done, but when you do feel like going out for a walk around the garden, that's all right. You can do that stuff too. Guys, I've loved having you both on. It's been great, and I know that we could continue talking like forever. But I do have to finish the show. I've got to finish the show a little bit early today, so that I'm out before the station manager comes in because of lockdown stuff. We've spoken about so many different things. If one tiny bit of it has got people interested in finding out more, how do they reach either of you, both of you?
Yeah, on social media, on Instagram, I'm on Instagram, Libby Light Leader, or libbywallace.com. I'm just changing over my website at the moment, actually, to libbyrobertson.com.
And Instagram is the best for me. It really is.
Cool.
At Dane_Te_Wharaupo. It sounds difficult to spell.
Yeah, it's not. It's just it's a WH rather than an F, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Guys. Hey, no, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm glad we could make it work. And actually, I think you're really exciting that everything's meant to happen for a reason, and the fact that we're in lockdown at the moment, but we're still able to do it is great. Which brings me nicely and cheesily into you guys sitting in Home Sweet Home. Why did you choose that track, Dane?
No, I mean, I just picked it out of one of my Spotify catalogs. Yeah, but interestingly enough, but it's always a song that. So, cut a long story short, it's always a song that just brings me back home. It's another. The last time we spoke, I had Country Roads.
You did, yeah.
So it seems as though there's a theme going on with my songs, but. I love the song. It reminds me of standing on top of a hostel in Peru just after I'd done ayahuasca, and I was ready to come back to New Zealand. And that was the moment that I knew, okay, time to come back to New Zealand.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time this morning. And here it is, Motley Crue with Home Sweet Home.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
You know I'm a dreamer, but my heart's of gold. I had to run away high, so I wouldn't come home low. Just when things went right, it doesn't mean they were always wrong. Just take this song, and you'll never be left all alone. Take me to your heart, fill me in your bones. Just one more night, and I'm coming on this long and winding road. I'm on the way, I'm on the way, home sweet home.
Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue. How good was that? What a great interview with Dane and with Libby. Such fun. Really enjoyed talking to them. And yeah, I'm going to listen back to it to what we actually spoke about. But you know, that whole idea of going inside, in order, it comes back to one of the things we spoke about at the top of the show. Exploring. Go inside and just don't be frightened to. You're not going to hurt yourself, but go out for that walk in nature. Go out and look for that different thing. When we explore that, there are all ways of going inside ourselves and understanding that we have everything we need within us. And don't forget to breathe. Really, don't forget to breathe and do some deep breathing. Maybe not to the point that the Army physical training instructors made me breathe at points in my past, but access that deep breath. Just go out and try it. It won't hurt you. I don't promise. Go out and try it. Just get some deep breathing done. And thank you to Libby and Dane for being so open during our time together on the show. Right, where had we got to? We were just about to do the book review, and then we managed to get hold of Libby and Dane. So today's book review, Kabul Catastrophe. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, they wrote that one quickly. It's only just been on the news. Well, this book by Patrick McCrory is actually about the catastrophe that started, in 1839, I think. With one of the many British forays into Afghanistan, and ended in 1842, just 3 years later, when 16,000 troops were killed on their way out of Afghanistan. One man survived, so the story goes. The doctor survived. And he only survived because he wrapped himself in the colours of the regimental flag. And the Afghan tribes thought he was obviously someone important, so let him live. A fascinating story, but another great book is called The Great Game, because that's what this period in Afghanistan's history was. It was the great game of cat and mouse between the Russians and the British to keep British India, the Raj, apart from the Russian Empire. And it all went wrong. But if we dig deep into history, Afghanistan has been a place of war since Alexander the Great first turned up nearly 3,000 years ago. It is a crossroads of empires. It is a death of empires. Afghanistan has had challenges throughout its history, but an awful lot of the conversations that are going on at the moment are: was it a good idea or not? Is it just 20 years of waste or not? I have a personal view on it. I have been to Afghanistan on a number of occasions, and not dissimilar to my time in the Iraqi desert. I love Afghanistan. Kabul is one of my favourite cities in the world. The history of the capital is unbelievable, from the British forts to the Russian flats to the history of all of the empires that have trudged their way through there trying to make a difference. I lost friends in Afghanistan. It was tough, but I know that the vast majority of us who served in Afghanistan know we did a good job. We went out there and we created change. We created hope. We gave opportunity to where there hadn't been opportunity in the past. Whatever happens with Afghanistan in the coming days, weeks, months and years, it's a different place to where it was 20 years ago. I would hope that the Taliban are different to who they were 20 years ago. Only time will tell. But anyone, my view, as a retired Lieutenant Colonel in the British Army, anyone who spent time in Afghanistan over the last few years can hold their heads up high. We saved lives. We gave hope. We gave people an opportunity to look at a different way of living. And I hope that stands them, not that hope's a planning tool, I hope that stands Afghanistan in good stead for the future. If there's anyone out there who served in Afghanistan or who has been a part of the Afghan adventure, who is struggling at the moment, reach out for help. Drop me a line, stu@studarling.com, or find me on Facebook, or reach out to your regiment, reach out to the New Zealand Defence Force, reach out and ask for help. These are trying times when we begin to question something that we have been involved in. I was talking to someone about it the other day, and this is someone who had absolutely nothing to do with the Afghan campaign other than watching it on the news. And their view was, it's been part of my life for the last 20 years. I can't believe it's not there anymore. Massive global events affect us all in some way. So if you're finding it a challenge at the moment, if you're questioning why, if you're wondering what happened and you feel that it's all gone to custard too quickly, reach out. I'm here to have a conversation, or even if it's just to put you in the right direction for someone to talk to. There is lots of opportunity to talk to folks out there. Afghanistan is now responsible for its future. Decisions have been made recently that have pointed it in a direction, maybe not the one that the West, all of the coalition had hoped. But Afghanistan has made a decision on its future, and we now make a decision on our future. As I say, reach out, stu@studarling.com, or find me on Facebook, and let's have a conversation. I'd far rather we have a conversation now, and the answers are sought rather than any struggle going on. Wow, I didn't expect to go there when I did the book review, but sometimes a way to better understand what's going on right now is to look back into the history. Just look at the Great Game. Look at what happened during the 1800s in that part of the world, and realise that this is just the next part on that country's journey. I'm actually going to skip the next track because I've spoken too much. So we're only doing 5 tracks today, but we're going to finish the show, as I said, slightly early so that I can clear this place for anyone else coming back in. But remember, we are in lockdown in New Zealand. Wherever you are in the world, there is always a place for empathy. And if you are questioning what you got up to in Afghanistan, or if you're questioning what the hell is happening with regards to the Afghan campaign, reach out, stu@studarling.com, because remember, we can always be there for someone. And part of this show is me recognising that, do you know what? I'll be there for you.
Even
think that was the theme tune to a fairly famous TV program. I think it's actually available on Netflix. So if you've got nothing better to do, there's 10 series to watch. Don't. Go out, get educated, explore, exercise, and have empathy. I know sometimes it feels like lockdown means that everything's cancelled, but not everything is cancelled. The sun is not cancelled. Spring is not cancelled. Relationships are not cancelled. Reading is not cancelled. Devotion is not cancelled. Imagination and kindness are not cancelled. Conversations are not cancelled. Hope is not cancelled. And most importantly, love is not cancelled. That was the Resilient Show today. Thanks to Libby and Dane. Thanks for listening. Wherever we go over the next few days, New Zealand and the rest of the world, remember, so many things are not cancelled. Go out there with kindness and empathy and love to love. I'll see you next week.